In the early 19th century, the University of Berlin was the center of the intellectual world. The most famous philosopher of the era, Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, lectured there to halls packed with hundreds of adoring students. Hegel taught a comfortable, optimistic philosophy that human history was a beautiful progression toward ultimate freedom. Down the hall, at the exact same time, another philosopher scheduled his classes. His name was Arthur Schopenhauer. Unlike Hegel, Schopenhauer refused to sell the crowd comforting illusions. He taught that the world was a blind, irrational machinery of suffering. As a result, his lecture hall was almost entirely empty. Imagine you are Schopenhauer. You possess a genius-level intellect. You have uncovered the psychological architecture of human suffering, yet the world completely ignores you in favor of a man selling them fairy tales. How would you react? Would you change your message to please the crowd? Would you grow bitter? For most people, the desperation for validation would force them to compromise. But Schopenhauer simply withdrew. He knew the masses were sleepwalking, and he had no interest in waking them up. He was not writing for the herd, he was writing for the sovereign individual. One single realization can permanently alter how you navigate society. Schopenhauer realized that humanity is driven by a relentless, unconscious force he called the will. Today, people inadvertently view Schopenhauer as a depressed pessimist, a man who simply hated life and lingered in emotional extremes of sadness. But the original idea behind his philosophy was much more clinical than that. Schopenhauer wasn't a pessimist because he was sad, he was a realist because he saw the world for what it truly is, a theater of suffering. His philosophy wasn't a manifesto of despair. It was a survival guide. It was a way to view, describe, and understand the mechanics of the world. It was a blueprint for rendering yourself immune to the games people play. Because Schopenhauer did not write for the masses, his philosophy became the secret weapon of the elite minds that followed him. His general philosophy was widely studied by those who shaped the modern world. Albert Einstein kept a bust of Schopenhauer in his study. Friedrich Nietzsche found Schopenhauer's book in a local shop, read it, and said it was a mirror in which he saw the world with frightful magnificence. Erwin Schrödinger, the pioneer of quantum physics, was deeply influenced by his works. This was not a philosophy for victims. It was a philosophy for architects. It was designed for anyone who possessed the eagerness to stop being a participant in the madness and start being an observer. So why do so many high-level minds adopt Schopenhauer's clinical detachment as a way of life? In a world full of social climbing, betrayal, and status games, our emotional reactions get in the way of our strategy. In reality, we don't get angry because people are selfish. We get angry because we unexpectedly discover their selfishness. Think of a dog. When a dog barks loudly at a stranger walking by your house, you do not feel personally offended by the dog. You do not hold a grudge against it. Why? Because you understand the nature of the animal. It is a dog, therefore it barks. Schopenhauer teaches us that, in the same way, we must understand the nature of the human animal. Most people are driven by pure, unadulterated ego. They are slaves to their own desires. When someone lies to you, uses you, or abandons you for their own advancement, do not be offended. It is as natural as a dog barking. Expect that human loyalty is conditional. By expecting nothing from others, you ensure that no one can ever haunt your peace. With the current state of the world, where social media and advertisements are constantly shoved down our throats, we are made to believe that if we just get the next best thing, a certain aesthetic, a specific income, a high-status partner, we will finally be happy. But Schopenhauer exposed this as a biological trap. He called it the Pendulum of Desire. Life, he observed, swings endlessly between two states, the pain of wanting and the boredom of having. Think about the entrepreneur who works 80-hour weeks for 3 years to buy a luxury car. He suffers through the anxiety and the pain of the chase, but the week after he buys the car, the thrill evaporates. The leather smells normal. The speed feels standard. The pendulum swings from pain to crushing boredom. To cure the boredom, his ego immediately invents a new, more expensive desire, and the pendulum swings back to pain. Attaching your peace to the next high almost always leads to disappointment. To win, you must step off the pendulum entirely. You must find your peace in the dead center. To build this untouchable life, Schopenhauer left us with core mechanics, lessons from the godfather of dark psychology. First, solitude is your superpower. Schopenhauer famously said that a man can only be himself while he is alone. If you don't love solitude, you don't love freedom. When you are with others, you are constantly making micro-adjustments to fit their expectations. It is only when you are completely away from the herd that you stop being a puppet. Second, understand the pendulum. Master your desires before they master you. Third, expect the ego. Separate your emotional state from the selfish actions of the masses. Fourth, accept that intelligence is isolating. There is a modern obsession with being universally relatable, but Schopenhauer taught that the higher your spirit, the less you will have in common with the masses. Stop trying to fit your mind into rooms that are too small for it. You were meant to observe the world from above, not join its madness on the ground floor. Finally, happiness is a negative state. It is merely the absence of pain. Stop looking for fireworks and start systematically removing the things that cause you friction. The ultimate proof of detachment. Look at the most powerful Stoic figures in modern history. Those who survived intense psychological warfare, solitary confinement, or the absolute peak of corporate pressure. They all share one trait, a terrifying level of emotional independence. They do not derive their identity from the crowd. They do not panic when the market crashes, and they do not celebrate when it peaks. They observe. They understand that the machinery of the world is chaotic, and the only territory they can truly conquer is their own mind. By applying Schopenhauer's cold realism, they do not punish the wrongdoers, nor do they beg for validation. They simply rebuild. This is the way of the sovereign individual. In modern psychology, Schopenhauer's realization that happiness is an absence of pain aligns perfectly with the highest levels of cognitive behavioral therapy and self-mastery. It is a process. We must rewire the way we think. We must stop trying to add more pleasures to our life and start subtracting the unnecessary suffering. We must practice absolute self-worth in the quiet of our own rooms. Schopenhauer didn't want you to give up. He wanted you to become untouchable. By redirecting your definition of value away from the herd's approval and toward your own internal architecture, you can navigate the theater of suffering with absolute calm. In a world full of blind optimists, sprinting on a treadmill of desire, the one with his eyes open is the only one who is truly free.